But thank you very much for being on this little demonstration. Yeah, got someone else coming in. Okay. But thank you very much for your time. I mean, we've managed to secure Colin to do us a little demonstration, which is great because he's a busy man, and we're grateful for that, Colin. So we've got Colin from MGM, and Ollie, obviously, you're at MGM as well. So welcome and thank you very much for your time, and for all of you guys who have taken the time out of your day to come and look at this particular demo. I'm Paul Woodhouse. I am part of the TMB Pegasus team as an account manager. So my role is to look after you guys generically. And sorry if anything comes from this and you have any information you require, come and talk to me. That's great. But I'm going to hand you over to Colin. If there's any more stragglers come along, Colin, I'll just let them in, if that's okay with you. But I'll hand you to Colin. Thank you.
Okay, I'm aware of some of you are already using some aspects of our software, so forgive me if some of it is a sort of duplication. But basically, just to sort of give you a bit background on MJM, we've been around, I couldn't work out the exact number, but it's more than 30 years that we've been sort of around, specializing in sort of barcoding and data capture solutions. We've been a Pegasus partner for over 30 years now, working very closely with Pegasus to enable us to write our applications either directly into Opera or as an application that sits alongside. Basically, the bridge was introduced years ago because Pegasus, primarily was an accounting function with a stock module. But what was found was that people wanted to do more with their stock to have better control of the stock. And so we developed an application that originally sat inside Pegasus as a module. And then about 7 years ago, we decided to take it outside of Pegasus Opera. A couple of reasons. One is that we were aware of the SQL version or a SQL version that was coming along. And also the limitations of Pegasus at the time. We started running out of fields that were available with other bespokes that were in there. So we decided to take it out as a standalone application. The way it currently works, it sits on the same server as Pegasus would. And basically it sits there side by side and is continuously updating Pegasus. So any transactions that go through the WMS side of it automatically update into Opera. Part of our sort of ongoing development strategy, as well as basically the application is continuously developed. So any new requirements or anything else that people specifically want, we update it. Obviously, from time to time, there are fixes that we have to do. And so we produce a monthly release with all updates, and hopefully everybody gets an email to advise them exactly what those updates are. Currently, the application is now fully compatible with Opera 3, the traditional VFP version, and also Opera SQL SE. So the front-end application is predominantly the same. So if somebody's already got WMS at the moment from a front-end application, the primary functions are the same. The difference is behind the scenes, instead of talking to VFP, we talk to the SQL version. And also part of our development is we had an application called Kwikstock, which was basically a simple application that was running inside Opera to enable people to have a stock checking process, and also had some data import functionality as well. And what we've recently done is converted that to run with Opera SQL SE as well. So, and what we have done is also enhanced it slightly, so that actually within that module, we now call it the Lite version, so WMS Lite. It just has the stock manager, And then that means that within the stock manager, you can still do some basic transactions like stock movements, receipts in and out. And also it's got the full stock taking functionality. Then if you go to the WMS, it then adds on to it. So the full advanced version of WMS would then include, say, the purchase order processing side and the sales order processing. So what we're going to do this morning is basically the first step is to take us through what we call the light version, which is the stock manager. Having said that, the stock manager functionality that's in it is the same core that also is in the advanced application. So we just build onto it with the various different modules. So Ollie is going to give us an overview. And I will say that, yeah, we're not going to go into all the functionality because we'd probably be here for the rest of the day. So it will be an overview so that you get a feel for it. And if, as a result of going through all these, you want a more in-depth sort of look at it, then that can be arranged so that we can give a one-on-one session. Okay, Ollie, so if you'd like to just go through Stock Manager for me.
Yep, sure. So hopefully you can all see the screen I'm now sharing. So this is the main Bridge WMS application that you get when you first load up, and you can see we have all of our managers across the top. So like Colin said, we'll just go through Stock Manager first. So opening this up, we end up on the warehouses screen in our system. This gives you an overview of all of the warehouses in the system and the total stock figures that you have in each. A couple of features that I'm going to show you now apply to every screen that we will see in WMS today. So on this, I'm going to double click on this main warehouse record. That has automatically moved me over to the bins tab and applied a filter for my main warehouse. So I'm now seeing all of the bin locations within the record I clicked. If I double click on one of these bins, that drills into the bin location. I can now see all of the product codes that I have in that location and the quantities of them. And then if I double click on one of these, that has drilled me into the stock FIFOs. I can now see the first in, first outs for a specific product within that location, and therefore see all of the date times that they came in. So just by double clicking on information, you can drill down and find everything you need, and it will apply all of the filters. Obviously as well, you can just come into these screens without the filters and do your own manual searches. Just jumping back briefly, from the bins tab, we have the ability to edit and manage the bins on the fly. So you can create bins in the system. We'll get them all set up, but you can create any bins you need for your racking. We have the ability to hold and unhold bin locations. So if for any reason you need to stop users from going to a certain area of the warehouse, you can come in here, put a location on hold, and the scanners will no longer direct the users round to those areas. So that comes into play in sort of sales order picking. You can isolate areas of the warehouse. Continuing on, next tab we have is the products tab. In here, it's just an overview of all of the products in the system. The main thing I want to show you in here is the stock card. So the stock card is just like going into the Opera stock processing screen. We have all of the same information that you'd have on that main page that you get, plus a couple of extra tabs that we've added in of our own. So going through these, we have a barcodes tab. This lets us apply any additional barcodes to your product codes. So for example, if you have a product that you buy in from a supplier and they have their own barcode on the box, we can cross-reference that to your product code. Your users can then scan any of the barcodes on the box and it will recognize it as your product and just work with our system. Stock levels. This is an overview of all of the stock that you have in the system for this product, so we can see which bin locations we have, how much in each. Warehouse levels, essentially the same thing, but this is just a per warehouse breakdown instead of a per bin breakdown. Batches and serials. Our system has the ability to handle batch and serial information. If I just find a batch product here, then we can see an example here of all of the batches that we have in stock at the moment. We can see how many we received, how many we've issued out, how many free, and the expiration dates if those apply. Same applies for serials, so I'll just look for a product here. There we go, so we can see all of the serials that we have for this product and whether those have been issued out on an order or not. And then the last tab that I'm going to show you in here is the transactions tab. So the transaction shows us all of the history for the product in our system. You can filter this screen down based on transaction types. So for example, if you needed to do a query into receipts that have been done against a certain product, you can select receipt, refresh, and that's now filtered the screen down to all of the receipts you have. So that's the product so far. We've briefly been through the stock levels as well when we were double clicking earlier, but just to recap, this is just a breakdown of all of the bin locations and the products contained within. And then the stock FIFOs, the first ins, first outs, so all of your products and the dates they came in. Continuing on, I'm going to come back to stock takes at the end, so we'll just skip over now. In transactions, just like in the stock card, we have a main transaction screen as well. This is all of the transactions within the system. At the moment, we don't see anything, but that's because everything has synced over to Opera. You would just normally see outstanding transactions here that are waiting to sync. But if we tick on the Show Synced button, then we can see all of the history throughout the system. So if you had someone call up about a batch product that there was an issue with, you could actually come in here, search for that batch number. The system would then filter down. You would see all of the order numbers, purchase order numbers, work order numbers, and so on that relate to that batch. You could then do all of your inquiries and trace back as you need. Pick routes. We have the ability to set up pick routes within our system. So if you have a specific route that you want users to be navigating around your warehouse when picking orders, we can set that up so that they're not zigzagging all over the place. We also have the ability to handle costing in our system. So if you use job costing, we'll handle that. And I think that is it for the tabs that I'm going to show you on here. So what we'll do is briefly jump over to the Android.
Ollie, just a thought before you do that. Do you want to show about managed screens and the functionality of?
That's a fair point. So one thing I missed, we also have the ability in our screens to edit all of the information on screen. So if I were to right click and manage fields on any of these tables, I get a field selector come up. What I'll do is just find a random field that I can turn on. Here we go. I'll just turn on this branch name. And you can see that that has now added that column to the screen, even though I don't have any information in there. What I can then do is reorganize these screens as I see fit, sort them just by clicking on the column, ascending or descending. And then I can use the export data button up here to generate an Excel report with all of the information that I have on screen, including all of the custom columns that I've added and so on. So from any of our screens in WMS, you can fully customize everything and generate your own reports. But yes, back to the scanner, what I will do is just bring this over. So this is our Android app. I've just got this loaded up on screen so you can see, but I'm using a physical device in front of me. What we'll do first is go into our stock processing menu. And these are all the areas that relate to the stock processing that we've just been through on the desktop. So within here, we have a couple of functions. First, we'll look at stock lookup. This is just an area that you can use to do an inquiry on either a bin location or a product, and it will return you all of the relevant information. So as an example, if I scan this product barcode I have in front of me, the scan has now returned all of the locations that I have the product in. We can see the bin numbers here. We can see how much we have in stock in each location and the FIFO dates for each of those. As well as that, I can just do a general inquiry. That's now returned all of the stock I have in the system. So I can just see everything and anything. Or I could search for a specific bin. And now it's just showing me the items that I have within that bin location. Next up, we have the movements. So these are the equivalent of just doing a ad hoc stock transaction. So going into the stock card in Opera and just creating a transaction there is not necessarily tied to a sales order, purchase order, or anything like that. In here, we can do issues, returns, receipts, and adjustments if you have them configured on. What I'm going to do is just show you an example of a receipt. So I can confirm the warehouse that I'm in. I would walk up to the bin that I'm going to receipt this product to, scan it, scan the products that I'm putting away, confirm the quantity that I'm going to put into this location, so maybe 5 of these. It's now told me that the line's been added to review, so I can just keep going through, doing my work. I can check that screen at any point if I need, change those transactions if I've made any mistakes, or if I'm all happy with everything, hit finish, and that will have now generated a transaction on the desktop. If I just jump back here quickly, and we can see, here's that transaction, the user that it was generated by, the quantity it was for, the bins, and we can see it's still currently waiting to sync. I've just unticked the show synced. The screen's refreshed, that transaction's now gone, so we know that's synced up to the ERP system and all the stock's balancing between the two. Back to the scanner. We also have a transfer section. This is essentially the same process as the movements. The only difference is you have a from bin and a to bin because you're physically moving stock from one location to another. Replenish bins. We have a bin replenishment option in our system, so you can set up minimum and maximum levels and replenish your main pick faces. What I'm going to do here is just jump back to the desktop. Within the stock levels tab, this is where we would set up all of our replenishments. I'm just going to do a build replen report. So doing this, I can see in the system, I've got a main pick face of A1 for this product CMAT 109. I currently have 525 in stock, but I always want to have between 700 and 1,000 in this bin location. So it's asking me to transfer in 475 to get us up to that maximum level. And here are the locations that we currently have some stock in that we can transfer in. So if I pull up the scanner now and go into replenish bins, one thing I didn't mention as I went into the movements and transfers, you have to log in with a user whenever you're doing transactions in our system. This is how we get the record of the user against the transaction. So I will log in with my user. Here we can see the same information as is on the replenishment report PDF. So it's telling me bin A1 needs to be topped up with this product. I can then select this record and it's presenting me the same suggestions, which bins I can take the stock from. And at this point, I would go up to the location, scan the bin I'm taking the stock from, confirm the quantity I'm moving. In this case, I have 5 available to move, so I'll do all 5. And we can see that the quantity on screen has now updated. You did think we had 525 in stock before, we now have 530 in there because we've moved 5 in. If you finish that record off, then it would vanish from screen, so that just acts as a job list for your users to work through to replenish all of their pick faces. So now we've gone through those, what I'll do is take you through some of the stock taking side of things. So back on the desktop, we have a stock take tab here. In our system, you can set up templates for as many stock takes as you want. So if I go into the add stock take button here, this opens up our template form. We can see all of the templates that I've prepared in advance. We have multiple ways that we can set up our templates, but I'll take you through an example now. So clicking on new template, here's our template form. And all I'm going to do is set up the most basic example. So I could say create an example where I'm just going to stock take a certain aisle of my warehouse. So maybe I just want to stock take aisle A. I'll select that, and provided my system set up correctly, it's automatically selected all of my bin locations. I could then say that I'm going to do all of the products within that location. But as you can see, we do have various other options, such as you can count based on when the product was last counted, the amount you've currently got in stock, the movement frequency of the product, the costs of the product, and so on. I'll just give this stock take a name. There we go. So we now have a stock take template here that we can use to create our stock takes whenever we want. But what I'm going to do in this case is use one that I've created earlier. We can also see the last stock take dates against any of our stock takes. So if you do rotational stock takes, you can just click to sort by this column and see which is the next one you need to do. But I'll select this ILA, hit confirm, And now it's actually using our template to create the stock take. Colin did mention that our system is fully live, syncing with the ERP systems 24/7, but there are 2 points where it's not 100% live. It will hold the transactions until you've finished what you're doing. This is one of those areas you have to fully finish the stock taking process before anything will sync back. So it's just giving us a warning regarding that. I'll hit yes. Okay. And it's now generated our stock take. If I double click on this, it will drill us into the stock take lines, and we can see all of the products that it's expecting in the locations that I've selected to stock take and the quantities that we should see in there. At this point, it's ready for us to open up the scanner and just start stock taking. So I will go into the stock taking button, and I'll just use the general stock take for now. Log in with my user. Then we have the option to select our stock take from a drop down at the top. If you've got multiple open, you just select it. There's a reference field for any comments if you want, which will sync into the comments field in the transactions in the ERP system. And then this version of the stock take is completely blind. So the user is expected to just go to the first bin, in this case in ILA, scan it, and then scan the first product and start counting. So I'll do exactly that. I'll scan my A1 bin, scan my first product code, and then I will put a count in here. Obviously, your users, as I said, this would be completely blind. They wouldn't have these figures, but I'm going to use the numbers on screen to get some nice quantities for these examples. So I'm going to say that we have 90 of this product in stock at the moment. It's left us in the same bin location in case we have any more stock in there to count. So I'll scan the next item in here. And I'll put a count of 530. And then I will do one more item. And we will count this at 140. Each time I've counted a record here, it said line added to review. Just like in the movements and transfers, you can tap on review, see the work you've done so far and make any changes if needed. I'm all happy with what I've done though, so I'll just hit finish there. It says, are you sure you want to finish this stock take? Yes, that's just saved my work for now. I can reopen that same stock take app and just continue what I was doing at any point. But if we go back to the desktop, I'm just going to hit refresh. And that's reloaded our lines here, and we can now see the counts that I've put into the system. So we've got a couple of colors that are flagging up. We've got a red line here because we had 95 expected. We only counted 90, so there's a difference of -5. We can see the difference in cost on that as well. This line that's flagged up in blue is because we've counted 140, which was a difference of +5. The white line, of course, is just 0, fully balanced, so nothing to worry about there. At this point, you might be a bit concerned why you've got some counts that are wrong. So there are a couple of ways you can handle these. You could either mark it for recount, which just allows the users on the scanners to go recount those items again. You can see that's deleted the data from the record. Or you could physically go down, count them yourself, and make a change to the count. So maybe there's 137 in there. And a field for a comment, which will sync back to the ERP system if you want it. So we still have a positive difference on this record, but it's a bit better. So maybe we're fine with these now. At this point, you would need to go through and authorize the transactions. So I will select these, authorize. We won't worry about these options for now, and we'll just use the default. Are you sure you want to authorize these too? So it just gives you one last warning before you commit. And we've seen the screen update. These lines are now pink. This just means they have not posted to the ERP system because we've not entered the stock take. So at this point, you can keep going through, counting more items, authorizing them as you go. And when you're all done, you go over to the stock take header and end the stock take. It then gives you a summary of everything that's been counted on your stock take. So we can see here there's an issue where some lines haven't been counted. We know why that is though. It's because we had 37 lines expected and we only counted 2 of them. So I'm all happy with that. I'll just hit end for now. It again is just going to give us a warning regarding those 35 uncounted lines, but we know why that is. I'll hit OK. And because I've now ended that stock take, it will have generated the transactions for any differences in our system. So that difference of 2 has generated a transaction for this product here that will now update the ERP system to match. So that is the stock taking process. And I think that is everything that I need to take you through Stock Manager.
What about just showing the reports?
Yep, fair enough. I often miss those. So we have a couple of reports for the stock takes as well. Stock take summary report and a variance report. So if I come into these, hit confirm, I'll just show you the default options for now. So this is now showing us all of the counts that we've put into our system. We can see here who's counted what and when. So that's just a brief summary of all the counts. And then our variance report. Same idea, but this is showing us the differences in the prices based on what's been counted. I've got a lot of red lines showing up here, but that's because we didn't count most of the lines on that stock take, so they would be expected to show up there. Obviously though, we do, like we said, we do have a couple of these custom reports here, but on any of these screens, you can edit all of the information on screen, manage fields, and then export that data to create an Excel report, and then you can manipulate that data as you need. Okay, I think that's it for the stock processing.
Okay, so basically what Ollie's just taking you through is the stock manager module, and that stock manager module is the core of the system, but it is also what now becomes available with WMS Lite. So for those people who use Kwikstock, at the moment they might just use the stock take functionality. That is still a manual operation where you input the figures, which can be done on the screen. But this version also now allows people to use scanners if they want to use scanners in the stock processing side of it. And with that, you then get the additional functionality of being able to sort of transact goods in and out. As Ollie said, not via purchase orders or sales orders, it's just stock movements. So that's the same stock movements that you would be able to do in Opera. At this stage, is there any questions or anything that anybody would like to bring up? Yeah, if you want to fire away.
Hi, thanks, Ollie, for sharing the update, and I think that's fair enough. Everything you have covered very well. Quick check. I think Jemmy knows our pain area. So the point is that we would like to see, are we also able to put our bill of material in WMS, or everything has to be done in Opera and then it will synchronize with WMS? Because what's happening at the moment is we are doing every stock take in WMS and it's been synchronized with ERP and we can see all the figures coming up. But when it comes to our bill of material, whatever we produce in-house, especially related to our mold production, we are still using Opera, and then there's a variation because Opera has no bin location, but WMS has a bin location and batches. So we would like to know more about that portion, that are we allowed to do? And if it is yes, then what should be the process? If you could just to give us an overview of that. Thank you.
Okay, if you don't mind, what we'll do is we'll go into the works order manager a bit later on. We'll do purchase orders and sales orders first,
Okay.
and then we'll go into the bill of material side.
Okay, no problem. We'll wait for that.
So yeah, now if we move on to so if you were to take the WMS Advanced, WMS Advanced will include the stock manager, dispatch manager, and receipt manager. So Ollie will now go through the receipt manager.
Okay, so if I open up receipt manager here, Then this is the screen we land on. This is just giving us an overview of all of the purchase orders that we have in our system. So here you can see all the purchase order numbers, suppliers they're coming in from, due dates, and so on. We have a couple of orders that are flagging up with various colors. So these red lines, they are showing overdue, and the orange ones here, those are any orders that have already had a part delivery on them. Just like in the stock manager, if I double click on one of these orders, that will drill me into the order and show me the lines on the order. But as soon as something is in our system like this, it's ready and available for us to start processing on a scanner. So if I take a look at this order here, I will bring my scanner over onto screen again, exit out of the stock processing area and go into purchase orders, and then go into receive. So I'll have to log in with my user. And at this point, a truck or lorry or something has come in on site. It's got the goods ready for you to receive. Hopefully they've handed you some document or something. And if that document has the purchase order number on it in a barcode, you could just scan that off the document. But in my case, I will just type in the order number. It's now confirming the order number and the supplier that sent these goods over. I can confirm where I'm receiving the goods to and any references or comments if you need them. And then you can see it's presenting me the same items here on the scanner as we have on the lines on screen. So we have 60 of this product to receive, 100 of this, and 3 of this. You can then pick up the items, scan the barcodes on them. Like I was saying earlier, if you have a supplier barcode on the box that's cross-referenced to one of your barcodes, you could just scan that and then it would load the item on screen. Or if you don't have any barcodes or they're damaged, you can just tap on the record and that will load it as well. I can then confirm the quantity that they've sent over, whether it's a full or a partial amount. So maybe this supplier's only sent over half of this line in this case. That's then updated the required quantity on the line and the total quantity at the bottom. I can then go through all of the lines, receiving them as I go. This is an example of a batch item receipt. So I need to actually input the batch that I'm receiving. It could be that I'm receiving multiple batches. So in this case, I'll just put in some quick numbers. Say we're receiving 1001 and we're receiving 50 of that batch. And then I could tap on the line again, receive batch 1002 and receive 50 of that batch. So now that I've fully received that line, it's ticked it off and marked it as the required quantity as 0. I can move on to the next line, which is an example of a serial product. So in this case, I have to put in the quantity that I'm receiving again, and then it's going to ask me to scan each serial into the system. If you have serials in a row, so they're all going incrementally, then you can like scan the first one, say you're receiving 100, and it will automatically calculate the next 100 serials. But I will manually type some in, which is the same sort of thing as the previous one. And you can see there's a list button because I've done a couple here. So you can check which ones you've received so far as you go. Now I've received all of the serials, that item's been marked off as well. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to hit finish. So I'm just indicating that I've now scanned all of the goods that have been received off of the truck. In my case, I've just put them straight into a goods in location on the floor. We do have the option to receive them directly to a location. At each point where I was receiving as well, we have the ability to generate labels, so barcodes for the products and so on. So I could have received one of those products, noticed that I don't have a barcode for it. The system would have then generated one that I could apply to the product, and then I can scan it going forwards in the system. Now that we've done the receipts though, if I go back to the desktop and hit refresh, we can see that the quantities have updated here. So we can see 30 of the first line has been received and the full quantities of each of the others. Just like in stock taking at this point, we have received the stock, but it's not ready and available in the system because somebody needs to come on, do the quality checks and approve the items. So if I go over to my purchase order lines receipts tab, we can see all of the receipts that are currently outstanding and awaiting for approval. We can see who's done those receipts as well. So at this point, you could either come on, authorize all of these, or maybe you notice that some of them are flagging up red, which they've received less than required. you could then inquire with this supplier, okay, why have you sent over less than required? Look into all of that. If you're then happy, you can come on, select these and approve, or if you did need to, there's the ability to edit the quantities and so on. I will just approve these. Yes. And in my system, I've got it set up to send an email notification, so we can notify in your internal departments. Say you want to send an email over to your purchase orders department when you receive an order, they'll be notified that all of those orders have now been received off. At this point, it will have generated the transactions back in Stock Manager. So if I just reopen that, and we can see here are the receipt transactions. And by the time we've actually gotten here, they have actually already synced over to the ERP system. So those purchase orders in the ERP system will now show all is delivered and everything's done. A couple of other things in Receipt Manager. We have the ability to handle container shipments. So within our system, we can create shipments. I'm not going to go into the details of exactly how you create them, but here is one I've set up earlier. This shipment here is coming in from this supplier, but we can see that it's two different purchase order numbers. The only difference between receiving a purchase order and a shipment is you use the container number field when entering the order you're receiving instead of the order number field. So if I look at my shipments tab, I can see I've got container number 1 that's coming in. I can then select that container. It's confirming the supplier that container is coming from. And then we can see the lines on that container for the two different orders there. And then it would just be the same process that I've just shown you of going through and receiving those lines. I think that is everything for purchase order. And that's actually what I'll do is just run through the put away process quickly. So I've received these goods directly to a goods in location. So the equivalent of taking them straight off the truck on the floor or somewhere near the loading area. So I will go into my put away list. This is a process that's going to direct my users in putting stock away from that goods in location into the pick bins that they live in. So here are all the items that are currently living in my goods in or main in location. All I'm expected to do is go up to that goods in location, pick up a product, scan the barcode on it, which you should now have a barcode on it. If you didn't have one, then you could have printed one during the purchase order receipt process. It's now telling me the bin that I want to receive my stock and move it to. So I'm taking it from main in, moving it to A1A1 as that's its default location. However, if that bin was full, I could tap on the bins button here, and that's now showing me all of the other locations that my stock also lives in. So I could then put it in a secondary location if required. In this case, I'll leave it as default though. I'll confirm that I'm moving the full quantity of 30 that we have outstanding. And now that I've done that, it's removed the record from the put away list because it's been put away to its correct location. So that definitely is now everything within the purchase orders. So I think unless Colin has anything he wants to jump in with, I will move straight on to dispatching.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Ollie. If anybody's got any questions, then yeah, just please shout.
So Dispatch Manager, same principles as the Purchase Order Manager we've just been through. First screen we can see all of the orders in the system for all of the customers. Again, we've got a couple of colors here. The orange does not indicate part deliveries in this case, though. It's just a color gradient for how overdue your orders are. So if I sort by due date, we can see the ones that are quite overdue, the ones that are just overdue, and the ones that are currently on time. We do have a couple of secondary tabs in here, so I'll just take you through these very quickly, but they all do exactly what they say on the tin. So the All Orders tab shows you all orders you have in the system at the moment. Available for pick, it shows you all orders that have some stock available for pick. The Assign tab lets you see any orders that you have currently assigned to users. Our system can either let you just do first come, first serve on order assignment, or you can specifically assign them to users. In pick shows you the orders that are currently being picked on the scanners right now. awaiting dispatch, we have the ability to separate out pick, pack and dispatch processes. Today, I'm just going to show you a combined pick, pack and dispatch all as one process. But if you have the separate processes, then any orders that are awaiting dispatch will show in here. The dispatch tab will show any shipments, any orders that you've sent out with either a full or a partial amount. The on hold tab, any orders that you have manually put on hold. You can put any orders on hold from all of the other tabs we've just been through. And then the back orders tab, this is the inverse of the available for pick. It will show all of the orders that are currently on back order because you don't have stock available. If I jump over to the available for pick tab and I double click on this record here, that's just drilled me into the sales order lines. Just like in the purchase order area, because these orders are showing in our system, they're now ready and available for us to start picking. So what I'll do is jump over to the scanner. I'll just exit out of these purchase order processes and go into the sales order menu. So in here, I'm just going to select pick. Again, log in with my user because I'm doing transactions. And then we have a couple of ways we can load the order. We can configure this screen how you want, but you can either enter the order number. If you have a document, then you could just scan the barcode off of that. We have a list view button so that you can see all of the orders which are listed with the based on priority and due date. So highest priority, earliest orders at the top. Or you can select to just get an order automatically assigned to you. Again, that works based on priority and due date. So it will just assign the highest priority order to your picker. In my case, I'm going to manually load this order number here. And then it's giving us the header information, just confirming the customer that we're picking an order for. You can typically enter instructions or comments on some of the ERP systems. If you have done, they will sync down into this comments box here. So it's a way that your sales order team can send a message down to the warehouse team regarding the picking that needs to be done. I can now just click on pick, and it's now going to direct me through picking all of the stock for this order. So all I need to do is go up to my first bin location, scan the bin it's telling me to. So we can see here we're in the main warehouse and it's suggesting we pick this item from A1, A2. If I wanted to, though, I can select the bins button, pick from a different location, but I'll stay here. Scan my bin. I'll then scan a product code. Confirm the quantity that I'm issuing out. So I'm going to do all three. And then again, this is an example of a serial number, so I will need to find a serial I can actually issue for this one. In your cases, you would have a serial number printed on the box. If it doesn't come with a serial number, we can generate that on the receipt and the label for it. But I don't have a physical label in front of me, so I'm just going to grab one from the system. So any of these will do. So that's the first serial I'm going to use. So I've scanned my 3 serial boxes. It's accepted those. I can now move on to the next item. It's telling me to go pick this CMAT from A1C1. So again, I will scan the bin to confirm where I'm picking from. And maybe I make a mistake and walk up to the wrong bin, scan that. The system's now warned me that I've tried to pick from the wrong location. I can now go to the right location and pick from there instead. There we go. And just like on the bins, if I make a mistake when scanning a product, the system's going to warn the user. So I'll then confirm the correct products and the quantity. In this case, maybe I am only sending out a partial amount. We can configure the system whether you're allowed to send out partial amounts or whether an order has to be fully dispatched. Because I've only done a partial amount, it asks, do I want to pick the remaining from a different bin? Maybe I didn't actually have enough in that bin, so that's why I've picked less than required. I could say yes, in which case it would give me the option of the other bins I could take the stock from. Or I could select can't pick, in which case it would set the remaining quantity to be picked to 0. So I just say, yes, I'm not picking anymore. That would then result in a partial dispatch, and I could come back and dispatch the rest when I have the stock available. So I'll just say yes to this warning that we haven't picked enough. And it's moved on to the last item in the list. So I'll just do that one. I've trapped myself here because I don't actually have a barcode for this one, so I'll just have to type this one quickly. But this shows if you had a damaged barcode for any reason, you could just type and then you can input it that way. I've just made a silly mistake there because I've put the SKU in instead of the bin. So there we go. I'll scan everything correctly. And then it will take me to the screen where I'm now issuing out the batch. So I'll confirm the batch that I'm issuing. In this case, again, I could just scan the batch that I have on the box physically, but I can tap on this batches button to see which batches I actually have available and where they live. So I'm going to take from this batch here. We can see that we have 17 of this batch actually in this bin location at the moment. So I'm only issuing 5, so I have enough of that. So I'll just confirm those numbers. We've now reached the end of the order, so it's just asking, do I want to continue picking? If I say yes, it would loop me back round to that order selection screen at the start. But at this point, I finish picking my order. It will generate a delivery note for that order, and everything is all ready. So I'll say no here. Then if we check back on the desktop, on the dispatch manager, hit refresh, we can see that on that order, our quantities have updated to show that these lines have now been picked, packed and dispatched. Within our system, we do have the ability to integrate with various couriers. That's an additional module for Bridge WMS. If you get that, then our system can automatically create the courier consignments. We have deliveries tabs over here. This shows all of the packages that get created for those consignments. So in our case, we can actually see the order number that I've just packed. If I double click on that and drill into it, we can now see the package that I created for that item. In my case, I didn't have couriers turned on, so it's actually just packed everything into one box or on one pallet, but we have the ability to set it up so on the scanners you can define how you're packing items. If I just double click on that package though, we can then see all of the lines that were shipped on that package. I think that is everything. Colin, is there anything else you want me to go through for sales orders?
No, that's absolutely great. Thanks, Ollie. Yep. So basically what we've just shown you there is the stock manager, the purchase order manager or the receipt manager and the dispatch manager. Those, as Ollie sort of was going through, he showed you the transactions going through the WMS. Basically all the transactions that are performed on the scanner and within WMS, that's done first. Once everything is verified and okay, it then sends it to Opera. That sending function is automated behind the scenes, so it's not as if another user has to go and do something. So all the controls and everything else are within WMS. And as Ollie's shown in various places, you can select the data that you require on the screens. Each of these screens, as Ollie mentioned, they are user specific. So each user can have their screen set up exactly how they would like it set up for themselves. And then they can export the data out as and when they need. As Ollie mentioned, yeah, we have a courier module which interfaces into, I think we've probably got most of the courier companies now. But basically at the moment, so typically if somebody is using a courier, what happens, they pick and pack and that's ready to go. Then they would move across to the APC, wherever it is, log into the courier system, key in all the information again, produce the label, the courier's label, slap it on. Our process basically removes that step completely, so it automates that process. We've got other things. Ollie mentioned labels. Right throughout the whole process, we can produce labels at any stage. So if this is a label that's required for coming in from the outside, at the point of receipt. So Ollie's showing you there all the various types of labels and all the various triggers that we've got. So if you're issuing goods out, they can be labeled. If you're dispatching goods, they can be labeled. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the labeling. And so those are the core modules. Within the advanced, or the courier is an additional module, but the core modules being in stock, dispatch and receipt. So what we'll do now is also, I don't know how many of you have used bill of materials within Opera. So we'll now go to the Works Order Manager, and the Works Order Manager talks directly with the bill of materials side of Opera. And this is where Jamie might have to sort of jump in a little bit as well. And Summit, this is where, so if we go through the process as it should work in inverted commas, and then you can interject with your question. But before we go ahead, I've got I can see a little hand up from NS. There's a couple of hands.
Just unmute yourself, guys, and just chirp in.
Yeah, I'm unmuting me. Hi, thanks for explaining everything. I have a question here. Just looking at the receipt manager, you know, is there anything like when we receive the goods, is there any date that when we put them in the system?
So when you key the order in Opera, so the
No,
ordered date or the date it was received, sorry?
It's a received date, mainly
Yep.
when we receive the product from our supplier.
Yeah. So Ollie's got that highlighted there on the screen there. Yeah.
Okay.
And what I'll do here is I'll
that's
just
in the fields that you can manage, and I don't know if that one's
Received.
enabled by
Is it?
default.
Is it? I was looking at the purchase. You looking at purchase order lines, right?
Yes, at the moment, yeah.
Okay. Let me check the manage field and then.
Oh, sorry, no, this is
Receipt.
the receipts page at the moment.
Which one?
The
So it's
purchase
the
order
first
line
tab.
receipts.
Purchase order receipt.
Yes.
Okay, let me
What you'll have
check.
to do is on the right side, just tick the show
Yeah.
approved. Yeah.
Receipt date. Okay, so whatever we will receive here, we can check in this window, in this tab.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Alan?
Yeah, I was just wondering and very quickly, because I know we have a specific situation in terms of how our company is set up. But in terms of managing like a kind of retail environment as part of your stock control. So, we do have a small warehouse, a couple of small warehouses, but a lot of our stock kind of exists in a retail environment where sometimes we would, I suppose, we could have an order picked from that retail environment, but sometimes a customer can just pick an order off a shelf and go to a till. What, just broadly speaking, is this something that you're familiar with, and how do people manage it in terms of the system? Like, do you call your retail environment another warehouse, or how would that work?
So we've got customers who do multiple things. So they'll either have the shop aspect set as a different warehouse in Opera. So all the stock, once it comes out of the warehouse into the shop, they'll just transfer it. And when it's in the shop, they won't actually use bins. So that when the order goes through the till and then that's put in Opera, the transaction from Opera comes into our system and it can automatically reduce the stock from that shop warehouse. The other way would be if you did have it in the same warehouse, we could either set up a shop bin within that warehouse, and any transactions that come in from Opera, because I know you use Opera, so I'm using the term Opera.
Yeah.
You can go into the transaction screen in WMS where it shows all the transactions that have come from Opera, and you have to tell it the bin to perform that against. So you just highlight them, say these are all coming from the shop bin, confirm them, and that'll reduce the stock in WMS as well.
Yeah.
So it's two ways, really.
Yeah. No, that's something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, we can certainly handle that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that we've got is that you can actually raise a sales order as you're walking around the shop. So on the scanner, you can create an order as you go.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, from our perspective, I'm thinking like we'll probably have to do rolling stock takes on the shelf, like, but then we also have that added dynamic of a customer can just come along and pick up a product and take it to a till, and how do we, if we've done, receipting properly and we kind of have everything set out in the right location, how do we control,
Sure.
the different, because some in realistic terms, something can leave our shop front as an order, so something that's come through on the phone that would follow the order picking process.
Mhm.
And then some of it can just be a customer picking it up from the same place and going to a till point with it,
Right. So the tills, do they link directly in with Opera, or is that a process that you do afterwards? So you'll have to then, so you run it
I
through
think
the
they're
till and then you
automatic,
create
yeah.
the order.
Yeah, I think they're
Do you-
automatic.
Yeah, do you know what system that is? It KPOS?
Yeah.
So yeah, KPOS links directly with Opera, and we can actually talk to the KPOS system.
Okay, no, that's great. I don't want to hold it up with this. Just a general kind of question,
Yeah. No, if you want, we can just explore that offline a
Yeah.
little bit further, if that would help.
Yeah, no, that's no problem.
Okay, so Ollie, if you want to just start with the works order, and then as I mentioned, we'll just go through the core process,
Yep.
and then Summit, if you jump in at the end of this bit, and then we'll go through your specific.
Okay, so work order manager, just like the last two managers we've been through, just shows you all of the current BOMs or work orders that you have outstanding. So we can see all of our work order numbers for our various products here.
So sorry, Ollie, just on that bit. So basically, throughout the whole system, Opera is the driver. So in this particular case, just like all the other orders, Opera has created the order. So there is a bill of materials that will be set up within Opera. So that has all the component lists. When somebody goes and creates the works order within Opera, that then comes down into WMS, and then WMS takes over. Sorry, Ollie.
That's all right. Yep, so it's exactly as Colin was saying, these are all orders that have synced over from Opera. Now that they're showing in our system, they're ready to just be processed on the scanners. But before I do that, I'll just take you through these tabs here. This is the work order tab that we're in. We do have the products tab as well, which shows all of the BOMs that you have in the system. So we can see all of the potential products that we can create. We can manage the phases for products. So if I go in, misclick there. If I click the right button, we can basically set up phases for the production of your goods and assign specific phases to those specific goods. If I double click on one of these work orders, then we can see the lines required on that order. What I'm going to do is hopefully find one that has a few less lines on for me to process. There we go. So here's the work order I've set up earlier. This item, a CMAT 044, requires these three items to make the final good. So like I said, because this is on the desktop, it's ready for us to process on the scanner. So if I go back over to the Android app, didn't want to be in that. Open up the main menu here, go into the works order menu. First thing I need to do is issue out my goods. So there are multiple ways you could do that. You could do it on the desktop, but in this case, I'm going to do it on my scanner. So I'll select to issue my orders. I will need to input the work order number. We could have it so that the system generates a work order document with a barcode they could scan here. But I have just input my order number. It's now confirming the components that I've got to pick to create my final product. So we can see all of this information matches on screen. We can see the required quantities which match as well. I would then just walk around just like sales order picking. I would go up to my bin, scan it. Sorry, no. At this point, correct, forgive me, you actually scan the product code that you're picking. So that's that one there. So you scan the product, or you can tap it on that first list. It then asks you for the bin that you're picking it from. So I'll confirm that I'm picking this component from A1A1. It's then telling us the quantity that we're picking from this location. So I'll confirm that I'm issuing out all two. You could issue out less than that if you're just creating some of the goods at a time. But I'll do the full amount. And now it's just moved on to the next line. So again, confirm the bin. Scan the product. Confirm I'm doing the full quantity. and the last item here. And if at any point you didn't have enough stock or you didn't want to use that bin, you could tap on the bin button and just select one of your other locations, but I'm just going to stick with my defaults. So we've now issued all 3 lines on that order. Just like in sales order picking, it's told us that we've reached the end of the order. I could say yes, and that would loop back round to the start of issuing. But if I go back to this desktop, hit refresh, we can see now that the unissued quantity is updated. It was showing 2 unissued for each line. It's now showing that there's 2 at WIP because we've allocated 2 to each of these lines. Back on the scanner. In my case, I do have phases set up for this item, so I will need to progress it through those phases as I'm working on the work order. So I will go into the phases, update phases. I will select my work order number. We can see here, in this case, I've got 3 phases assigned to this item: assemble chair, quality check, and finish. So I just need to start going through the processes. I'm going to start assembling the chair. I now go through the process of assembling the chair. Once I'm done, I go over to the finish section. I scan my document again if I've got one. I then confirm that I'm now finishing the assemble chair process. I'm only building 1 chair at the moment. I'm doing it 1 at a time. So I'll confirm that quantity of 1. And that has now updated that phase on that item. You can at any point come back and check the phases of your items. There it is. So we can see one of our chairs is currently unprogressed through the assemble chair phase, but one of them has been completed. And the one that has been completed is now at the quality check stage. So we can see those and check all of the goods as they're progressing through. But what I'll do is just go through and finish progressing all of this order through all of the phases. So I'm just going to start my quality check on the chair. I'm all happy with it, so I'm going to finish the quality check. And now that item is at the last stage, the finish stage, so we don't need to process it any further. I'll exit out of that progress stage. Because I have one of my chairs now at the very last stage, it's ready to complete. So I can go into the complete section. Again, confirm the work order number I'm completing. It shows me here, well, we had 2 of these products to make, but you've built 1 of them. So if you select it, and we're now going through the process of receipting that made good into its location. So it's told me that this item should actually just go into main in for now. I could walk up to a bin, scan that bin location, and it will overwrite it. So let's do exactly that. Hope if I had that field selected. There we go. So it's now receiving into this bin. It is telling us the quantity in that location at the moment, but we've got nothing in there. We're just putting this 1 item in. And then because I'm completing this order, but I haven't made the full quantity, it's going to ask me, do you want to mark this order as completed because you haven't actually finished it? I'm going to say no. That means I can then continue going through the issuing, progressing, and complete stages on that remaining chair that I haven't built for this order. If I hit yes, it would mark the order off as completed. That would sync back to the ERP, and you wouldn't be building any more items on that order. So I will say no. Again, it's just going to ask, do you want to continue completing orders? In my case, I'll say no, because I'm just doing that 1. And at this stage, we've taken that order all the way through. We've built 1 of the items on it. If I go into the work order timings on the desktop, and I'll sort by order number here, we can see this last work order, and we can see that this user here progressed the items through these phases at these times. So you can see exactly how long it took to go through each phase of production. I think that's all the main points of work orders. So Colin, do you want to jump back in here?
Yeah, so and as you can see, that's the process of actually putting things through the work orders through WMS. One of the key things is that is basically if somebody adopts a WMS system, is to say, okay, transactionally, those transactions will go through WMS. If that's the case, then they will then link up to or sync up back up to Opera. If, however, somebody starts mixing and matching, so say for example, a sales order or works order, you start issuing on Opera and you start issuing on WMS, then that can cause conflict, and that's possibly something where things are coming in. So do you want to sort of just explain your scenario, and then Jamie hopefully will be able to talk it through.
Thank you, Ollie and Colin. So I think I may not be the right one to explain on this factuals of bill of material, because we have operations team joined us. But I think more likely what we want to understand as an overview is that we can do in WMS the bill of material that will synchronize with our ERP. That's fair enough, and I understood very well. Only thing is we will work out internally whether that's working for us or not, and if there is any questions we come up, then we'll speak to Jamie and find it out how best we can do it in our process.
Yeah, that's fine. I can have a chat with Martin, because I know that he's doing the job.
That'll be great, Jamie, because he's the man who's doing all of this, but he's struggling at the moment in terms of doing it in WMS while he's doing it in Opera. So if everything happens in WMS, then I think that'll be good, that we can generate the report straight from WMS.
Perfect. I will give him a call this afternoon.
Okay, doke, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you very much. No Thank you.
So Ollie, if you want to just unshare your screen.
Before that, do we just want to go through POD?
That's probably not a bad idea. So we mentioned earlier on with the sales order processing process that we can interface into couriers. But in some cases, people have their own vehicles. And so we have an option or POD module. So basically, you can load up your own vehicles, deliver the product, get the required signature, photo, whatever, and then update the system. So Ollie will just quickly take you through that.
Yep. So I've just jumped back to the deliveries tab that we went through briefly on the dispatch manager earlier. This is sort of where you handle any POD stuff from, on the desktop anyway. On the Android itself, we have a separate POD app. So if I open up this app, just have a couple of options here, loading and delivery. If I go into loading, this is just me loading up my van. So somebody has already picked and packed the orders. They've generated the box. We've got a delivery note for it. It's all ready to go, just waiting for me. So I will log in with my user. Ooh. Second, I'm not sure what's happened there. I know what's happened. My IP address changed this morning on my home PC. So let me just sort that out quickly. I might need a second here, Colin. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
Okay, what I will just say to everybody, so the WMS system, whichever configuration of it is, the way we basically work is that we will help sort of manage the process, help with the project plan, setting up timings. We can assist with how you might want to lay out your warehouses, offer suggestions. Hopefully we've got a bit of experience in multiple warehouses. We also understand that sometimes people do things in a slightly different way. So not only is the system totally configurable, we've got lots of options behind the scenes. But if there is an occasion where somebody says, yeah, I need to do it slightly differently, then we can actually sort of write changes to the software. Our normal process is to incorporate those into the standard product because we don't like lots of bespokes. We will just add it as a function within the system that then becomes available. Yeah, our guys, part of the process as well is we come out to site, do a review. So hopefully that everybody's on the same page when we come to do the testing, implementation, and go live. This sounds a bit like a salesy bit, but it's not meant to be because I'm not very good at sales. But basically, what is the fundamental why do people use WMS system? Number one is it takes away a lot of the transcription errors. Doing things on paper, backwards and forwards, makes lots of correction. You don't have to do lots of corrections with the paperwork. And overall, is improved accuracy. If you've got improved accuracy, and the golden rule with the WMS system, if it moves, you scan it. If you apply that rule, the system works absolutely brilliantly. And as a result, all the behind the scenes work that gets done, i.e. the paperwork, paper shuffling, entering details into Opera disappears. And so that overall makes the system, and more importantly, the stock accurate. We speak to many people on many occasions where they don't have control of the stock. So we hope that this helps control it. As I think I mentioned at the beginning, if anybody wants to go into anything in more detail, then yeah, we can do that. If either sort of arrange it through Paul, or give us a shout. Are you ready, Ollie, or not?
So unfortunately, I've received a update on my demo system, but I haven't actually got the update package for the POD. I was just trying to roll back the system quickly, but it's up to you whether we go ahead with that or we can show POD to people at a later date.
If you just bring up the screen, or can you bring up the screen?
I can open up the main
okay,
menu.
don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically on the POD system, Ollie was just about to show you, yeah, you take a package, because the package will have a barcode on it. We scan that barcode, we stick it into the vehicle, and then when the driver goes out, basically they scan the package again, it says it's delivered. They can take a photograph or a signature. That once that's done, that does a real-time update back to WMS to say, yeah, it's been delivered. So that then if the customer then phones in at a later stage and says, where's my package? We can say it was delivered to Joe Blogg, signed for by Fred, and here's the photo to prove it. So that in essence is what that would be. So hopefully you've got a little bit more of an idea of things. As I mentioned, yeah, if you need any more detail or anything, then yeah, give Paul a shout, and we can arrange some one-on-one sessions. So over to you, Paul.
No, I only just say thank you very much, Ollie, Colin, and obviously Jamie as well, for your time. I think that was really worthwhile, and I think some of you guys have already got the MGM. Some are looking to go to the WMS, and I think you see the benefits already there, valuable for you. So we can work on that. But yes, as Colin said, I'm here and available if you want to chat. And I can always get the information for you if need be. But thank you, Colin. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Jamie, and everyone else for attending. I appreciate your time, and I hope you found that worthwhile. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.